The sweetest city in the world, the city of Sugarland, my city, is in the process of electing its next mayor. And this afternoon, I have William Ferguson sitting here with me, who's going to share with us his strategy, his vision, how he's going to make our city even better as the next mayor. William, welcome to the show this afternoon.
Well, Kunal, I'm always thrilled to be around you. You are so full of energy, and I love this place of success.
Thank you, William. Thank you,
sir.
William. I've known you for a few years.
Yes,
You've
sir.
served the city in various positions, but you've served as a councilman since 2020. But you've been a native Houstonian. You were born in Houston, then your family moved to Canada, and then you came back to Houston when you were 7 years old. You've been a business owner, entrepreneur. Walk us through your journey of being born in Houston, then Canada, and coming back to Houston, and a journey as being as an entrepreneur.
Well, I got to start with my favorite high point right now, and that is simply this. This year, I have been with my high school sweetheart for 40 years and married for 35. I got to start
Wow.
there.
40
okay?
years?
And I know some people in the room are not even 40 years old.
Yes.
Anyhow, okay, so as a little boy, I was born in Houston. My dad wanted to be a preacher, ended up in Kamloops, British Columbia when I was a little boy, 5, 6 years old. Things didn't work out between my mom and dad, and he went one way, and my grandfather recovered us from British Columbia, Canada, brought us back, and I was raised in Alief, continued my life in Houston, raised in Alief when I was about 7. And was raised up by a World War II veteran, and he's instilled in me a absolute requirement to serve the community, and that's what he did in war, and that's what I've done in my life as a police officer now. This year will be 30. Oh goodness, I'm feeling old. Started in '92, so it'll be 33 years I've carried a badge in Fort Bend County. So,
How many people have you arrested or shot?
well, I've arrested a handful, quite a few. I will say this. Here's an interesting statistic. One of our Sugarland officers, we celebrated him last night because he filed 60 DWIs last year, and getting 60 intoxicated folks off the street probably saved a few lives. And I've not filed 60 DWIs in my entire life. That's how impressive that number is.
In 1 year,
One year.
officer,
One officer.
60. I mean, he must be diligently looking for those drivers who are drunk and driving.
Yeah, so it would take me 4 to 6 hours to complete a DWI process from the field to booking to release to report writing. He can do it in 2 hours.
Do you mind sharing, do you think he has maybe internal drive or maybe a personal reason?
Yeah, so that right there, and I'm not going to speak to his exact reason, but I'll tell you that drives me. So mine was always family violence. Now, that's the most dangerous call you can get, but it was always my most preferred call because there's a bully in the house. And I always wanted that. Now, probably because I was raised with the absence of a dad, and I never liked how things were, and I didn't want that for anyone else. So give me family violence. In his case, he may have a history, and I was with him last night, and he may have a history of problems related to DWI, and he's honed in on it, and he is exceptional at his job. I can tell you that.
It's always the why of the person. You may be a law enforcement officer, you may be a realtor, you may be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But if you're passionate about something, it's always the why. And for you, it was family violence. So you became a law enforcement officer 30 years ago.
33 this year.
33 this year.
Woo!
Married for 40 years.
Married 35, with her for 40.
For 35, been with her for 40 years. And you've been in Houston all your life after you came back from Canada.
Yeah.
Walk us through your journey, college, school. What was your journey like?
So as I was growing up, like everyone, like many, all I ever did was work. And I don't know, I know your book. I've read your book, and I know that you've achieved quite a bit. But as a young man, in high school, for example, I never even went to a ball game. All I did was run a pizza joint and I delivered pizza and did everything I did. All I did was work because I had no dad, right? So I had to make my way. And my grandfather he taught me to work hard, and I did. So that was sort of my high school. And then I ran into my my little girlfriend there in our junior year in high school, and I've been with her ever since, and she's the best. And so when I became 33, and I'll go back to that, but when I became 33, I just felt overwhelmed to communicate with my dad, a sense of forgiveness for him. And I found him on a cell phone, after calling everybody when I was 33. I found him on a phone in Louisiana, and he answered, and I said, is this Joe? And he said, it is. I said, this is your son, William. And it was as if he dropped the phone, and he picked it up. He said, what's going on? What do you need? Wow. I said, well, I'm just calling to let you know I forgive you. I forgive you for walking away. I forgive you for not communicating with us and not providing for us. I forgive you. I'm a 33-year-old man at the time. I said, I get it. Life is full of turns and decisions, and good and bad. And I forgive you. I just want you to know I need to forgive you. And boy, he was standing at my door 3 days later. He drove from Louisiana, and we've been friends ever since. So wow. That'll give you an idea of things didn't start out so great. They turned out great. Now, going back to high school, so I ended up going to HCC, ultimately U of H. My wife ended up at Sam Houston State University. She went to Blinn first. So we've got a cougar and we've got a bear. Then my kids, my kids. My daughter ended up being a cougar, and my son ended up being an Aggie. So we got a whole mix in our family, but it's been a fun walk. I've owned my own businesses for years. In 2020, I had almost a demand from the people in my community. We need someone like you on council, and it was the year of defund the police. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is a perfect year in the middle of COVID. I want to get on council because I am a police officer, and our city believes in law and order for all. And sure enough, we won overwhelmingly in that race. And I'm thrilled to serve as a council member, and I'm going to be thrilled to serve as a mayor also.
So you've served 2 terms as a councilman. Share with me some of the highs and lows of being a councilman. Yeah. Maybe some policies, maybe some laws that you assisted in passing, or saw some roadblocks being in that position.
Well, that is a great start. So everybody, for example, I got into that thinking I had a clue. Just like you might get into a business. Sure. Oh, I got a clue what to do. I know how to manage. I don't have a clue. I got in there. It took me, like everyone, probably close to a year to figure out how little I know about running a city. And I sat back in awe and in humility and said, let me learn. And it has been the best. So I came from a low would be realizing I knew very little about our city and how it functioned and the systems that keep us safe. I knew very, very little. And now I feel extremely confident in my knowledge. And I'm very confident in our knowledge, knowing this very important thing about this election cycle. No matter who is elected, watch this, our systems that are in place in this city is going to produce a good outcome. So if we, the people, blow it, okay, they're going to be fine. Our systems that are in place they're automatic, and it's going to be fine. Now, if they get it right and they get people that are motivated to serve and improve on behalf of we the people, it's going to get even better, and our systems are going to appreciate it because they're going to run faster and better. And so it's been a lot of learning, and we've seen developments. You probably know what's going on in Sugar Land right now. This is a high point for me. It's a legacy moment. I don't think about my legacy much, but I do want to look back in 10 years and look at what we are going to accomplish with Imperial and Lake Point and Track 5 and everything that we're doing. I want to look back and say, I had a hand in that moment. And I'm excited about that.
Fantastic. Some of the laws that we pass on a regular basis, it's a process to get things done. I experienced that firsthand working with this commercial building. What is your opinion about the process and checks and balances we have? Do we need more of them, less of them? What's your opinion?
So here's the answer. There is already in front of us, but sadly, we don't seek it. Here's what I mean by that. You as a business owner / developer, investor, you already know what's in your way, right? You know there are things that are unnecessary. You know that. So the government should embrace that and say, okay, why do we have this particular rule or statute that stands in their way, and how can we reduce its impact? And so, as you can imagine, you already know me pretty well, that's absolutely going to be one of our starting points, because if we continue to stand in the way of development and redevelopment, we're going to be in the same place in 10 years we are exactly right now. I don't want to be here again. We're in 2025. 2035 should look magical to us because we remove the delays. Now, there are things, safety issues, there are things that are necessary, but you and I both know the lighting in this room was one of them.
Correct.
Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
The rule was it had to be motion, and
yes.
we couldn't function in here. The lights would turn off until we changed that. And now that, I mean, that's a very small thing, but the answer's right in front of you and I. You already know. I just need to listen to you.
Right. You're right. There's a code which has been removed now that you must have lighting that turns off automatically. But that code has been removed recently. This was in 2024, is that correct?
We voted it out, yeah.
Voted it out.
But it required someone, one, to present it, and two, for the government to listen. So as soon as the government stops listening to your concerns, it's going to stay slow. It's probably going to prevent you to go somewhere that listens better or simply doesn't have those concerns, those statutes.
Recently, City of Sugar launched this ride-share concept, where they have a few cars, few electric cars. I think there are 4 or 5 of them for residents to go from point A to point B and pay a minimal fee of $2. What's the strategy? What's the thought process? What's the vision on that, William?
So we actually are, and I believe it's a 3-year contract right now. So HGAC, Houston Galveston Area Council, they are doing a study, and they're using our city. Thankfully, our mayor is the president of HGAC, and they're going to attempt to figure out how this mobility opportunity kind of frees up a community. And I'm going to give you a great example, I believe. A lot, or the concept now is aging in place or aging in your home. And so our community right now, our median household age, or our median age in our city is 44. So we really have very few 30-year-olds, but we have a lot of 50, 60, 70-year-olds. And so here's our logic. There's going to come a time you and I won't even own a car for 2 reasons. One, you may not need it because you're living in a community that has everything you need, grocery store, your doctor, your retailer, everything. That may be one option. Or 2, you really don't need to be driving a car, so you don't have one. So you can Uber for, whatever it is at the time now. It's $15 to $20 if you're running around. But the city of Sugar Land right now, for the next month, 18th to the April 18th, it's $0. So if you and I right now wanted to go from here to St. Luke's right here in Sugar Land, it's $2, but 2 for you and 1 for me, or 2 for me and 1 for you if we're in the same car. And so our hope is we will sort of mobilize our community, those that currently are stuck at home, or watch this. Here's the one that's going to be overwhelming. What if I live in Sugar Land and I want to go to Smart Financial or Constellation Field? There's a concert or a game. Let me tell you, that Sugar Land on-demand system is about to be tested, because last year Smart Financial brought in 301,000 guests.
301,000 in 12 months.
And here's a beautiful thing for you as a local investor, developer, real estate mover and shaker. You ready for this? Of the $24 million that was generated on tickets, the vast majority were 30-year-olds. And guess what? They don't live here. They don't even live here. So when you start to think, well, wait a minute, they're buying all of our tickets and they're going out of our city to go home. Hopefully they're having dinner in our city. Hopefully they stop to buy a car or something in our city, right? Otherwise, we're just losing an opportunity to attract them, and then they go home. So going back to the rideshare, let's mobilize those that are aging in place in a safe way for an affordable rate. And that's exactly what Sugar Land started on the 18th.
Fantastic. What are some of the other initiatives that were close to your heart that you made sure went through the legislation, went through the process of getting approved?
Okay, so there's a lot of things happening. Now, I do want to bring up the biggest one, and I've got to say, it wasn't because of me, but it was certainly with my support. This current opportunity for Imperial to develop, this is a non-starter for the last 18 to 20 years. And our executive team, through the direction of all of council, made a decision. You know what? We're going to purchase and unify the ownership of that property. And I got to tell you, that is probably one of the most exciting things that I know my hand has touched through votes and conversations and committee meetings. I am so excited about Imperial because ultimately it's going to be a $1 billion+ development. What will that do for our community? Jobs, retail, entertainment, housing. It's going to do everything we need to bring our 30-year-olds back. They're driving the economy, and they're not here.
So the old structure of the actual sugar factory, is that going to be staying up? What's a strategy for that?
So it's very important to everyone understand the absolute must is a char house needs to be saved, okay? The char house is where it started. So 160 years ago, the very concept of Imperial Sugar started, okay? 160 years ago. That building has stood there for 100 years this year. So there's been some discussion, hey, tear it all down and build a brand new one, and you'll have another 100, 150 years, depending on how well it's made. That's a pretty affordable option. Saving the building is actually a larger task because we work with the Historical Society, and it really is it's a challenge, okay? So the char house for sure, the Children's Museum for sure, and then the other pieces may be pieces of new, if I may. They may be repurposed in a way that we can still see the wall or the structure, and yet it becomes a new library. It becomes an area that you and I sit around and have dinner in. I mean, the Char House and the Children's Museum are absolute. You're not removing those two.
How many years of project are we talking? Is next 5, 10 years?
Well, hey, if it's my way and not everything is my way, I would love to see it in development by the end of this year.
Okay.
It just depends on how quickly a developer, we've got several that are interested, but a developer produces the plan that we all agree on. And let's just hope we can do that quickly now that we unified the property. You've dealt with enough private property owners that you know one can be all on board while the other two are going, not yet. So what we've done is taken them off the table, and now we're unifying that. So it should close here in the next 20 days or so. So I'm excited about it. That's probably the biggest, most exciting. Now, the daily user is the pump track. I love going by there, riding my bike there all the time. I love going up and seeing the sign that has my name on it, because that pump track from day one was one of my ideas, and we have driven it, and it was a $600,000 investment, and 70% of the people that use the pump track do not live in Sugar Land. It's beautiful, man. They come from everywhere to ride that, which means they probably buy a bike or gear at our local bike stores or Academy or wherever, and they go to dinner at McAllister's or wherever they go. And so that one investment from our corporate funds, best investment yet. Didn't affect ad valorem dollars at all. Zero.
Fantastic. So the Smart Financial Center, the bike rack, all these things that are driving traffic into our city.
The airport.
That boosts the economy.
Yeah.
What's with the airport? Is there a plan or strategy for making it
So
bigger?
the airport, in my opinion and my demand, if I may, as a council member that understands the value of that airport, I don't believe that I would ever promote the idea of making it commercial.
Okay.
Even though that runway is as long as a runway at Hobby Airport, and a 737 has landed there from time to time, I don't believe our community needs a 737 from any of the airlines landing regularly to transport people to wherever they're going. They can go to Hobby for that.
But why not?
Can you imagine the noise alone of landing a 737 compared to these smaller private planes? And, that would affect primarily New Territory, Telfair, even some of the Imperial areas, Brook Street, the Hill. I think they would really get tired of a 737 coming and going in our airport. And it's unnecessary because it's a profitable airport every year from fuel sales. They sell enough fuel. It's like a little, for lack of better words, it's like a Buc-ee's, right? They fly in, they fuel up, get them a little snack. There's a Starbucks there, and they go on. And we have great relationships with our airlines that come in. Our private, it's the best.
So is there a law regulation that's going to prevent us from making a commercial airport, or It's TBD.
Well, it would require FAA approval.
Okay.
Okay, it would require that. There is not even an interest that I am aware of within our city government to consider commercial airline. Now, remember the flight path, and you know our airport runway. There are so many restrictions related to the flight path.
Parallel to Highway 6. Correct?
That's it. So as that plane is coming in this direction, there is a ceiling that is required. So you'll notice you'll never see buildings built there near 90 because they would violate that ceiling for the. So it really does affect a lot. And I tell people it is successful as it is. The team, the Jerry Seinfeld, for example, when he comes to Sugar Land to use Smart Financial, he always flies into our airport. He drives over, does his show, but watch this. Jerry Seinfeld has a requirement. He wants to sleep in his bed at night in New York. So he will get out of his show, he gets on his plane, he flies to New York, and he goes to bed. And it's a beautiful setup. Now just imagine for a moment, gondolas. Imagine the vision, the idea, the concept of adding gondolas to our city. Imagine a gondola that runs, literally picks you up at the airport, takes you to Constellation Field, or takes you down the highway to Smart Financial, or takes you. Just imagine. These are the concept ideas that we have right now that we're currently working on.
Love it. So, William, a few years being a councilman, now you're running for the mayor of Sugar Land. Election's right around the corner. What's your big vision? What's your strategy? What do you want to do for the city of Sugar Land as the next mayor?
So there are three things that concern me the most. Okay. As a police officer, I will always be concerned about our safety, because without safety, even this podcast would be something of a concern. We don't feel safe to even do a podcast. So we are one of the safest cities in the nation. Police, fire, and EMS, top dogs everywhere we go. Most people don't realize we're one of very few, maybe 5, 6 cities in Texas that our EMS can provide blood transfusion in the ambulance. Just imagine that. If you're going to have a heart attack or you're going to have a major accident, I'll be candid with you, I need to do it in Sugar Land because our people are geared up. So safety is always our first priority, and as a police officer, it's in my blood. We're going to make sure they're equipped, trained. We're going to drive safety. That's the first thing. The second thing I think is probably the biggest. There are other issues, but I'm going to throw this one out. We need to start thriving a little better economically. Here's what I mean by that. Our city's kind of stalled right now, not in a terrible way. And some people love the pace and mobility. They love the density right now. But I'll be candid with you. It's not going to last. And the way I know it won't last, and you're in real estate, it won't last because the dollar stores are all starting to show up in our city. We have 4 now in our city. What does that mean to you? That is an economic consumer. That's you don't see dollar stores, if I may, in Legacy West in Plano, Texas. You don't see dollar stores in, and I use it all the time, the Pearl in San Antonio. You don't need a dollar store. There's a 1.5-year wait for some of the most expensive housing probably in San Antonio is in the Pearl. And so we've got to realize our consumers are gone. The 30-year-olds are gone, okay? Thankfully, we still have some 40s, but our 30s drive it, and they're gone. So we've got to bring that back. Now, here's the challenge. They have no housing. Even if they wanted to come back today, they have to have a housing. And you know this as well as I do. You know the market, the available market in Greatwood and all around us, right? So 1, they have to be able to afford it. 2, they have to have it available. And 3, they have to have a job most likely near, okay? Well, you probably know about some of the things going on with the University of Texas. We're hoping to have some up to 2,000 jobs coming soon, and there's no housing. So the answer to one simple question is, where are they going to live? The answer is not here. And that's unfortunate. We want them to live in Sugar Land. And so that would be the second one is assist our city in economic change so that we will thrive again for the first time in a while.
Okay.
And then the last one is probably the one that breaks my heart the most. And I shared a little off camera with you a moment ago. Our city is truly one of the most diverse cities around. Certainly in Fort Bend. This election cycle is tearing us apart. It's breaking my heart because I have friends that worship differently, look differently, from different backgrounds, different countries, and right now they're just torn by their culture. They may look at a man or a woman that doesn't look or worship like them, but they're sticking with their culture, and that goes all ways, right? And I'm watching that happen right now. It breaks my heart. I want everyone to vote for us. So the third for me is to unify our city, and we're going to do that because when this is over, and the way I run a race, you've probably already watched me. I don't look for any particular culture, and if a non-Asian community wants to vote for me, great. If an Asian community that's great. I'll take any demographic. My parties are multicultural. Our city is multicultural, and we will celebrate that as soon as this is over. I'm already planning a party for that. So you just sit back and watch. So in summary, there is we want a safer city. We want a city that's thriving economically. And the last piece is we've got to unite ourselves and become a single neighborhood of different people. We can do it.
So what would you think we need to do to unify, remove the fraction within a neighborhood, within a community? What do you think we need to be doing?
Well, remember, it's human nature that we live where we're most comfortable with people we're most comfortable, and that's fine. Yes. Okay, so I would say a lot of my neighbors look just like me. Okay. I think I've been in Greatwood 19 years, and when I moved in there, I got a great deal on a beautiful house, and now it's worth even more. And I love my neighbors. Age-wise, we're all a little different. But I would say for the most part, demographically, we're pretty similar. So how do you bring them together? Well, the very first thing you got to do is have housing opportunities. And there are none right now. No one wants to leave the city with the second lowest property tax rate in the state of Texas with the best police, fire, and EMS. Nobody wants to leave, right? So you have to bring in this, if I may, this new multicultural 30-year-old. And they're coming. As interest rates are starting to trickle down, just ever so slightly trickle down. If we have the jobs and the housing and the retail and the entertainment, they're coming. And so we're going to, I want to call it natural, but it's not. It's really an artificial improvement to our community. We're putting all the pieces in place that all those 30-year-olds are going to come running. Because us 50-year-olds, me 50, you're probably 27. 22. But us 56-year-olds, I'm not leaving my house. I'm not leaving this beautiful city. And so no 30-year-old can come here. And I keep using that number. People just don't realize the value of a 30-year-old resident of their community. They're buying the cars. They're going out to dinner. They're doing everything. While the 56-year-old like me is at home scrambling eggs in the evening. It's just what I do.
What's your opinion? What's your strategy to have more jobs added to our city or for the people? What do we need to do to accomplish that?
Drive businesses. Okay, so small business is the heartbeat of America. Okay, we certainly need big business. But let's be candid. We don't have the land for them. Okay, so for example, I'm going to use University of Texas. They have a total of 37 acres right here behind us off of 59 at University. So there's another 37 acres that is not available for another large company, okay? And by the way, I'm going to give you a little bit of fun information that will probably surprise you. Who is the second largest property owner in Texas?
Second largest?
Second largest. By the way, the first largest is the government. They have parks that accumulate more than anyone. But who's second?
Tell me, William.
University of Texas.
Is that right?
It came out in an article 2 days ago in the Chronicle, and they cited, and I looked at that, and I went, University of Texas? Well, they have 37 acres right here in our city. Now, remember, we are a city of approximately 45 square miles. 4% of it's undeveloped. Of that 4%, 37 acres of it is about to soon be developed. Everybody's fingers are crossed. Plans will move forward. Ultimately have jobs, have retail, have entertainment, everything that comes with that. But remember, University of Texas is zero tax dollars.
So we have University Boulevard, we have U of H.
On one side, zero tax dollars.
And we have Smart Financial Center on the left side.
Yes.
So this land is right next to that area?
Yes, so right at the feeder street out towards Smart Financial. So from the freeway towards, you'll see there's three plats. One is 22, and then the other two make up the 37. And I'm thrilled to have them there. We're going to have high-income earners, doctors, nurses. They're going to be in and out of this building. They need a place to live. They just don't have anywhere to live. So there's going to be a housing demand, like, aggressively. Just imagine if you're living here making a good income, do you really want to drive all the way back to the medical center? No, you don't. You want a nice home here, and we need to provide nice homes for these folks.
And that's where Imperial redevelopment comes into play.
Imperial, Lake Point, and Track 5. So on the other side of the Smart Financial, there's 50 acres owned by a local developer, and he's waiting his turn like everybody to get that project started to meet that need. Now, what does this do for mobility? Well, nobody wants to use the M word, right? Mobility, right? It's going to be a nightmare temporarily. Everything is, when you have developments like this, I talk about mobility. Here's a great example. Why would the city and the state have ever built I-10 12 lanes one way, right? Like, no one could have ever predicted that, right? Well, here's what we have now as universities expanded into 3 lanes in some places. But now you're looking at potentially 2,000 jobs, more development, potentially a residential development. This thing is getting big. What's university going to look like in 5 years? I have no idea. But it will respond to the need. But mobility is going to be a real, regular concern for anyone. You've already got Smart Financial driving in over 300,000 guests every year. Good gracious, what's that going to look like? So people have to understand all of this is being looked at in engineers right now. Everybody's planning for this.
Fantastic. A lot of exciting things happening
I know
here.
it's a lot of information. But look, guys, you know, there's a reason people don't turn out and vote. Yeah. It's a sad reason. Well, it's a good reason, but it's sad to me. The reason they don't turn out and vote is we've got it. Like, we're looking at every angle of everything. You know, we recently had an issue with an idea for a power plant, right? Why would an idea of a power plant even come up? Watch this. Why would a gondola idea come up? Why would Whisk, a fully autonomous flight vision, why would that come up? It's because we're looking at every angle to improve their lives. And then at election time, Mays especially, they show up in 8 to 9%. It just breaks our heart that they're not there, because all year long we're working through these issues. Before I came here, I was in another committee meeting looking into the future on behalf of our taxpayer and our voter, that the voters rarely even show up in May. And that's okay. We're gonna hang on tight, and we're going to keep the mission moving. So it's an exciting time to be in Sugar Land.
Love it. So heard about your vision that you want to have accomplished with the city of Sugar Land. I'm aware of the values you bring to the table, to the voters, to the city of Sugar Land. Would you mind sharing with me top 3 values that you bring to the table as a councilman, as a future mayor of Sugar Land?
Well, I don't know if being a hardhead is a value, but I got to tell you, I'm a pretty determined guy. Now, look, I am all for people with special interests, okay? We all have them. I love dogs and cats, and there are times where I think that's the most important thing in the world. But the reality is we always have to balance that with how we care for our seniors as well. You know, you can go anywhere you want with this. But I'm pretty hard-headed, so I'm going to call that a value, even though it's probably not what you're looking at. I love looking at a group of people that are absolutely upset, right? And it's usually a small group, maybe 100 people. They're absolutely upset, and telling them I represent 115,000 people, not just 100. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with whatever fallout comes. It's a strength to be stern at times. And that, if I may, that's one of our Mayor Zimmerman's strongest, if I call it a trait of his. He is on a mission. He sees his end goal, and he is not interrupted. And he and I share that. Now, I may have a little more playful fun on the way from A to B, but we're going to get there. And I would say that's one. So honest and transparent, you know, I kind of put those together. You know, I'm an honest guy. You've known me for years, and certainly if I wasn't, my wife would have already run me off a long time ago. So you have to have leaders that are honest, and then I use transparent. Sometimes I'm too transparent. Maybe this show even will expose how transparent I am. I've got nothing to hide. There are things that our city, we have a we're having difficulties with whatever, right? I don't mind talking about that because these are struggles that we're going to overcome as a community. Next thing you know, we're going to be better off, right? I'm certainly not a good runner, right? So I'm not going to bring up that as a trait.
Sure.
But I'd tell you, I'm firm. I'm a strong leader. I am absolutely, transparent and I'm honest. I'll tell you always. And probably the last one is I'm just driven to serve, okay? I used this the other day, and this lady just absolutely loved it. I said, ma'am, you have to understand what you're dealing with when you deal with me is I'm not just an elected guy. I'm a sheepdog. And she goes, I don't understand. I said, my role, my DNA role is to protect you. And she goes, I've never thought about that. I said, you just think about it. You right now have a council member that is a sheepdog. I am looking for the wolves that are trying to tear our community apart, not just as a community, but also individuals. And they may come in the form of bad business. They may come in the form of fraud. You just never know. But sheepdogs are always looking for them. And as your mayor, you're going to have a mayor that's a sheepdog. And I love the term because that's what we do. And it's in our DNA. It's not, you can't artificially be a sheepdog. You either want to go into the fire and help people, or you want to wait back while guys like me run in there. And I'm excited about being a mayor that's a sheepdog. It's a fun thought.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So, William, we talked about the book. I wrote this book about a year ago, which talks about the first generation mindset, being the first one in a family to do something. When you're the first one, it's challenging. Being the first one in family to be a law enforcement officer,
Sure.
first one to be the councilman, and now hopefully first one to be the mayor.
Yes, sir.
And I talk about the three-step process. Vision comes first, then comes value, and then comes the
ask.
Vision, value, ask. And of course, your ask is obvious. You want people to vote for you.
Need them to vote.
But before the ask comes the value you bring in, and before that comes your vision. So I'm clear about your vision. I'm clear about your value that you bring to us, to the city of Sugar Land. If you had to say it to the voters today and ask for their vote, what would you want to say to them today?
Well, the absolute very first thing that I would tell my voters, I'm going to back up. The first thing I would tell registered voters, all right, because they may not be my voters. First thing I would tell each one of you is this. You registered to vote for a reason. Men and women throughout the history of this nation have died so you can vote. They literally have taken their wealth of their family and they put it on out there for the world to take from them so that you can vote. So I would challenge you to educate yourself and don't, please don't educate yourself to only vote for someone that is a D and an R or a cultural similarity. It's okay that you consider those things, but you've got to get out of that box for a minute. You've got to understand that there may be someone that has a D or an R that is the right person for the job. In our case, in the city, we're nonpartisan. People ask me all the time, and I simply tell them we're nonpartisan. And so my first ask is simply this. You have to take that registered voter, and they need to vote, okay? Educate and vote. Don't be an uneducated voter. Whatever you do, if you're uneducated, you're going to cause a problem. Be an educated voter and vote. The second thing I would tell them that is necessary for me, don't just sit on the sidelines during an election cycle. I really ask that you, when you pick your candidate, whoever your candidate, whether it's me or anyone, get involved, okay? Time is as valuable as money. Get involved with your time to wake up your community to vote. If you say, I don't want to get out and block walk, I don't want to do door hangers, I don't want to tell my neighbors, write a check to your candidate. Let them know that you support them with a check, okay? And I got to tell you, thankfully, I've been blessed. So many people see the vision, see the mission, and they've stepped up to help with time and money. I'm telling you, I need your vote. And you can go to fergusonforyou.com. You can call me. I'm readily available. But one more thing about his book he didn't mention. One of the key things that I picked up from your book is simply this. Do not take for granted that you live in truly one of the most special, sweet cities, not just in Texas, but in the United States. And I had recently had a gentleman tell me from Asheville, North Carolina, he studied our county, he studied our city, and his beginning comment was simply this. this is a very special city. And it is. And so we have the best for the least. 0.35. Missouri City, for example, is 0.56. Houston, 0.58. Pearland, 0.68. Richmond, Texas, ready? We're 0.35. They're 0.40. We live in the sweetest, most affordable city. Now, your school taxes are always a challenge. But, guys, it didn't happen by chance. It happened by men and women just like me saying, we're going to produce something special. We need your vote. We need your involvement. Please get involved.
Love that message. Love that message. William, every time I sit down with you, I learn something new. I get fired up. I get inspired. And I can wait for the outcome of the election next few weeks, next month or so.
Yeah.
But your vision, your value that you bring is incredible. Your journey of born in Houston, moved to Canada, then came back to Houston. Your grandfather was the one who put you all together and took care of you. And now you have a sweetheart that you married 35 years ago and met 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Great family. We're excited to have you run for the position and excited about the position.
And so we didn't mention early voting starts April 22nd through the 29th, and the election is May 3rd. Vote on April 22nd. Don't wait till May 3rd, and you got to work late. Vote on April 22nd. All the polling places will be posted. Please be an educated voter.
Love that. That was our William Ferguson coming to you, talking about his vision, what he's going to be doing for the city of Sugar Land in the next few weeks, next few months. Election day is coming up. Get yourself registered and vote for the right candidate for the city of Sugar Land. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. We love you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely.